We're live, in theory. We're about to see. Dylan Thea says that he's received the boss's texts. But I think we're good. All right, beautiful people. You ready to get weird?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. And it says we're live, so go ahead and take us in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things Podcast. I'm Adrian Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello, hello.
And Mr. Justin Robert Young.
Hello, friends.
I've got some science stories and things to talk about, but I want to talk. I do want to do an AI and a tech story, but I actually want to talk about. There's been, a lot of stuff about really fast model advancements and new, AIs that are now recursively self-training to be scientists and whatnot. And there's a whole OpenAI solving an open Erdos conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
I think kind of thing that still sits to me right now is Google Omni.
Okay.
Brian, have you seen this yet?
Oh man, I feel like Google Omni is their image, their video model, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what they did now is you can do video in, and meaning that we could go shoot, some movie or something like of us sitting around your table, us talking about stuff, and then say, okay, make it a Wild West bar, give us hats, do this, do that. And I thought that, what OpenAI announced when they had, remember Sora, guys, when they had cameos, when you could put characters, we could put ourselves in. I'm like, this is a great thing because this is a great step towards a bridge between people and AI. Now Google Omni, where you can actually capture real performances and then alter them, do all kinds of crazy VFX stuff, whatever. Doesn't have to be like aliens and robots. It could literally be make the time period or just these things. I was just so excited about this because as a person who's obviously very much a technologist, but also a person involved in the arts, I like steerability and control. And that's one of the biggest criticisms for a lot of stuff like video models and stuff is that they don't have enough steerability for, artists. And now I think this is a really great direction this is heading.
Yeah, well, so number one, I'm a little bit amazed. Just now I was searching for Google Omni and boy, oh boy, the SEO, the ad paid keywords, I couldn't find it in traditional search. I had to go to YouTube and find a video to explain what Google Omni is. How do they position it without saying the Sora word when they launched it?
Well, I mean, they've been building their own models, their VOs and whatnot. And I think that the Cameo thing was certainly the first place that I saw it. I think when anybody saw it was in Sora. But again, I think that what came to the table here was the fact that you're using original footage and able to regenerate it without not changing. It's not like changing the dynamics of the performer or the art, the art. It's just, again, I overall, I think that's like the big leap here is just the fact that you would record yourself, then put it in here, and it would be the same video as you, but then you would just edit and alter the video like you'd Photoshop, an image or ask for AI alterations on an image.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about it on the minor level, how many times, Brian, have you shot a thing, but there was some little element that was left out, or it would have been great if you would have had a blank for a blank, right? Like you are somebody who actually here's a real example. Brian, how much do you care about shooting things at golden hour?
Quite a bit.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it matters, because it everything feels good, it looks good. The idea of wetting down the surfaces behind you so it reflects and gives a little bit of that kind of shimmer. Those are things that as this technology gets better, but the concept of shooting something and then having that be added is the promise here, is like beyond some of the more wacky, like turn me into a Chrome man or like add a bunch of hearts around my head. the real world promise is, or even like, you know, putting you in a foreign world, like little on the edge things that can just that you know you will take time out of your day to make sure that you are shooting in this 45-minute window because you know it makes all the difference. Now that kind of stuff can be at a button's press.
That's so interesting because there are two very good reasons to do it. One, of course, golden hour is good for all the golden hour reasons. You know, faces fill in nicely, and. But the second layer is that it is inherently challenging, and there's a tight window, and it's a bit like doing a oneer. We were talking about that in the Great Night Bones podcast, where it's like, well, if it's not a oneer, then does that subvert the stunt? And that'll be interesting in a world where AI, where you can press a button and all of a sudden what was a hallmark of very difficult to do, kind of like 5 years ago, having lots of targeted emojis in your email, everything perfectly formatted, was an indicator of a lot of care. And now it is not. That's interesting. That's
Well,
something to
even the
think about.
concept of a oneer, right? The concept of a oneer took a gigantic hit in the era of digital filmmaking.
Well,
where
yeah,
you
along
weren't
with the
dealing-
crazy Unreal Engine sets that they had.
Well, I mean, yeah, beyond that, I mean, I'm just talking about, you know, DV and digital editing and stuff like that. Like the idea of a oneer in a film world was a real threading the stone needle, or else you were totally screwed, especially when it cost that much to shoot. You had, you know, it was some real daredevil stuff. In a digital world, it's like, you know, it takes everybody's time, but you can do it a million times if you want to, because the cost of the film doesn't matter as much. And then digital editing came around where you could be like, okay, well, I can actually add tricks here that were not available to me before, and you can be very, very fine in how you're editing stuff. So it's like, it's always changing. And you know, to the Omni thing, you know what golden hour does, like you mentioned, it fills in people's faces more. What if everything you did and you shot just had that? How much time is spent adding the right tint and maybe even the right, like, slight film grain to something in post work, like, to make sure that it's good. Now you can just kind of have that put on there.
I'm going to go a step further. Is, you know, when you guys do your world's greatest con, there's a world where you spend a week capturing stuff to do, you know, reenactments, you know, sit Vanacek down at a table and then say, great, this is going to be the lab. And, you know, this is the place, and just say, hey, 1970s lab, here's some, because you can just throw in photos and say, put this person in this environment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what they really cooked with it. I have not played with it. I'll at some point, I'm in buried with other stuff, but at some point I'll sign up again for the MK Ultra setting for Google and play around with it. I don't know at what tier. I think you need to join Sea Org to be able to play with it. But I do want to do it because obviously video models are something really, really fascinating. And the one thing that I think this has gotten as good as anything since Sora is physics. Like, Sora was exceptional at physics. Sora was good enough at physics that it could do slapstick comedy. That is, even for all of the videos that are coming out now, because politics is saturated with it, that have their own reasoning as to why they're important or funny, with like Spencer Pratt and stuff like that. There's no slapstick in the way that Sora could, where Sora could have, you know, how many of the viral videos from Sora were like a cat playing a fiddle too fast and somebody slamming open a door and saying like, knock it off. It's like, that's the kind of thing that you only when the physics match.
Well, and it
are
wasn't
they
just
funny.
It wasn't just the physics, it was also the comedy timing, the punchy Come on, Steve. Yeah, hey, buddy. Like never a dead moment. I mean, you could. I don't know. It had timing chops in a way that I haven't seen replicated yet.
That's the one thing though, is that with Omni is that like it does feel like it understands physics a lot more than VO did, which obviously VO is text to video, so that is creating a whole world. But it's where, you know, Google has, and DeepMind within Google has this idea that like the LLM revolution that we are in the middle of right now is not the path, that there is a different way to apply this AI, and it's an AI that understands the entire world and is not just kind of next varying more complex versions of next token prediction.
Well, I'll tell you what it makes me wonder, because what I've seen from a totally different angle is there's a few vlogs and newsletters that talk about the YouTube tactics stuff, and then one of them was about a buried setting about like check whether or not there's any synthetic manipulations in your video. And but then as a parenthetical, they mention, of course, if you use any of the Google tools, this setting doesn't matter because everything is synth ID'd and it's baked into the DNA that everybody knows you did it. And so now what I'm thinking of, Justin, is the interesting question is, let's say I do have a 90% there video, and I could press the 10% sweetener button to make everything perfectly golden houred. Now there's an interesting artistic calculus to do, because if I don't press it, then whatever I got, I get artistic points for having gotten it. But then if I do hit it, then the synth ID says, well, there's some amount of synthetic in there. And that's just the art question. Then I think about in the hip hop remix culture, it makes me wonder what kind of things could never have gotten close to being done without this. And it makes me want to artistically lean into all of that, to where like basically there are magic tricks where if you know that there's a marked deck of cards, they are less interesting than if you know for a fact that they are not marked deck of cards, right? We're continuing the everybody becomes a magician game where there's also kinds of tricks where it does not matter at all to their impressiveness whether or not those cards are marked or not. And then that elevates the meta, the artistic meta. That wasn't really a question.
I think that what I was getting at, what I like about this is that a lot of people think generative AI is I just wrote a prompt and I got the thing. But if you're out there shooting, you decide, Brian says, I'm going to make a Western. I'm actually going to go use some real locations and stuff. But hey, I can't afford sets. I can't afford lighting in the way that I'd like. I can't afford these things, but I have ideas and I know what I want to do. And you go shoot with the real actors, and you bring in some people to creatively collaborate. You know, you have a friend that says, hey, I'm a costume designer. We don't have the budget to make the costumes, but I can design them. And a small team, like much like in video game development, working in a game engine, treats it that way. Game engines didn't destroy the video game industry. The people used to have to hand code everything. Then somebody said, let's use a reusable engine to make this easier to do it. And it wasn't, nobody's really paying attention to go like, the artisanal things of having to write in assembly to get this thing to work. Yeah. And I do think we lost some things, by the way, with game engines. I think the gains were greater than with the losses, but you look at some of the super innovative things that were being done in gameplay and whatnot. That being said, I think that this is a transition point to the idea that you can go out there as a filmmaker, bring in some creative people, and you can point to every choice and say, yes, a human made this choice, a human made that choice, but no, we didn't have the budget to pay for horses, so we're sitting on sawhorses. No, we couldn't go shoot this at, like a Hollywood studio in the middle of Arizona. We had to shoot this in Michigan in winter, but we did that. And that's what I think what'll happen is you'll get some stuff where they can be amazing, and people will do a lot of effort to show you the behind the scenes, to show you, just like using blue screen, just like using other stuff, to go, yeah, we use these as tools, but we'll look at these people making choices. You know what? It makes me think of like, let's reduce every decision that happens in, let's say, a short film or a movie to either a human decided it or performed it or did it, or we rolled some dice. And really the game becomes,
you only get embarrassed and get in trouble if the number one thing everybody says is their favorite thing about your piece of work is the thing that you knew you pressed a button or rolled dice on. And so it's like, great. Well, then now the name of the game is just make sure that's not the best, most interesting thing about whatever it is you're creating.
Yeah. Yeah. So
there's,
I think that, yeah.
It's interesting the various ways that technology polishes over some things, but it's fun to watch ways in which we're increasingly able to see the human. For example, in what will be my pick later, there are some de-aged Nicolas Cage moments in Spider Noir but I have no doubt in my mind that the currently aged Nicolas Cage performed them, because when he swings his gun around, he doesn't swing it around like a late 20s doughboy. He does it like a mid 60s actor. And when he's running at an appropriate age. I mean, I think that's fascinating.
That was the same thing with
Pee-wee,
the Irishman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was Robert De Niro was de-aged, and it's like that is definitely still old Robert De Niro. Like,
Yeah, it was weird because at one point he calls him kid, and I'm like, what? I'm like, how am I supposed to pretend he is? Or I think the greatest sin is Sigourney Weaver in the Avatar movies playing
A teenager.
with the mature woman voice.
yeah.
Just like, okay. But yeah, I am just excited in general about the ability for artists to have just this chance to just be more steerable. You know, we have what, Toy Story 5 coming out, and we see images of Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, and why do we care? Because one, we like those guys, we like their performances, and we know that actors provide their own steerability into something. And I think that's, you know, Brian, you brought up before, a lot of people hate the idea that somebody can press a button, have it look as good as something else they work hard on. But I think that when you say, hey, look at this control panel, there are 9,000 buttons, and the people who are making great choices are the ones who know how to press them. I saw this back with DALL-E. When I did the DALL-E launch at OpenAI, I'm Mr. Prompt Engineer. Like, I'm the guy that thinks that I know how to talk to AI. We put this in the hands of artists who understood artistic terms and photography and painting, and they made much better images than I did. And that was a wake-up call to me of just how much that terminology gives you an insight into steerability. And you can spend, you know, somebody could spend forever and forever trying to make their own Spider-Man Noir, and not understand what a Dutch angle is, Noir angles, and the only times you get it is when the AI happens upon it, versus somebody who understands those things and deliberately does them.
Yeah, I think a lot about like the ability to just know who to summon from this magical crowd, where it's like, you've got an audience. I think I made this parallel a few weeks ago. I'm doing a magic trick on stage. Somebody has a heart attack. If I turn to the crowd and say, what do I do? The crowd's got one answer, woo! But if I say, is there a cardiologist in the house? Then I get a very different set of answers. And likewise, let's say you want to make your own Spider Noir. It's like, I need a cinematographer. Explain to me what uniquely made for this type of things during the movie. What are the different types of equipment? Like, great. What might it look like with exactly this lens and this type of film stock or whatever? Great. Of these three choices, now you've summoned somebody from the crowd to lay out a menu from you and behave as an expert. And now we're back to, in Brian's game of Find the Human, you found the human.
Yeah.
Vincent Velcap is Dutch. He says all his angles are Dutch angles.
Nice. Well,
I don't remember
he'll split them.
Hey, gentlemen, I've got an update. You know, there are moments you never forget. Where were you during this moment or that moment? And they're going to ask, and you're going to have a memory.
Do I need my lawyer for this, Brian?
Not yet. I don't think so.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find. Oh no. Oh dang it. Okay, we'll do this one. That's fine. Where were you the first time you saw an unprovoked robot attack? And the answer is going to be this. This is the one. Get ready.
I mean, you're talking about like the Kubota manufacturing line missed air, what killed a human in the
Nope,
1960s,
I'm
or
not.
this remotely controlled robot, by the way, that freaked out.
I'm talking about this awesome moment right here.
우스꽝스러운 가발을 쓴 로봇 한 대가 무술 공연을 선보입니다. 그런데 갑자기 앞에 있던 남자 어린이를 발로 찹니다.
Yeah.
아이는 배를 움켜쥔 채
So basically, there's a robot accident. Robot's doing a little, looks like a Unitree robot is doing a demo of some moves, but a kid wanders too far into the line. But it's funny because in this case, very clearly, there, the stakes were low enough that we'll walk past this moment. But imagining somebody gets a fatality there, like who is at fault? Is it the event holder?
The guy, Brian, can I
The
tell
guy,
you? Can I break
the guy
illusion? Can I
remote
break the
controlling
magic
the
trick for
robot.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy those are remote controlled robots.
Sure,
they're
sure.
not autonomous. So the guy with holding the remote control in his hand, who's off camera, is responsible.
Okay, but
Or the person who didn't put up stanchions to keep people away.
I just what the reason I say is like I see people will watch these. It's not to accuse Chinese robotics industry of a mass propaganda campaign, but every time you see, unless it's on stage in a box and it's doing a pre-recorded thing, when you see it walking or running or navigating, sometimes the camera will shift and you'll see the guys holding the remote controls. And I'd say that's the thing is there's a lot of perception among people. They think that they're watching autonomous robots. They're watching RV cars that walk. RC cars.
I like RV cars.
Maybe they're registered voters too. Brian, yeah, you were. You think that kid got up? Do we know?
Oh, we can go wherever you want.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to destroy the illusion that it was an actually autonomous robot doing it. It wasn't. It was a remote controlled thing. I just, I'm like, I'm sorry. I will.
You didn't really like let the bit unfold though, man. Kind of.
I know.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just saying, like, we
Darth Vader's his father. And that's like they're like on Hoth.
Nah, I mean, I guess the thing is, it's just is a guy that is a very concerned about how we look at AI and robotics and stuff and things like this. As I watch the media run away with this stuff or go look at all this stuff, like, well, it's like, no, that's not actually. It's like for me, it was like the psychic power stuff and ESP and stuff. It's like, well, no, that's not actually what that is. It's this.
So the narrative of unrestrained, out of control machine intelligence, and specifically as it applies to violence toward humans.
There's great examples of Unitree robots. Just again, my channel's flooded with this, like freaking out.
Yeah,
in
no.
restaurants
Beyond the robots, but I like your larger point. I'd like to kind of pivot to the larger point. The idea of the narrative becoming out of control of like these intelligences are breaking out of the box and hurting, specifically as it results to hurting humans.
Well, I mean, part of it is the narrative that like China is like so far ahead in robotics. That's the thing that China has been spending a considerable amount. Even when you see a freak out, like you see a thing where a robot hit a kid, like, yeah, but look, the robots are in parades are interacting, and where are ours? It's like, and I think China is very, very good, very far along in mechanical stuff, but the autonomous stuff they're not. And so I'm like, well, that's not actually it's the operator who got too close to the kid and did that. It'd be like if I saw a drone, we watched a drone, human controlling a drone and it hit a kid, like, oh, the drone went crazy. Like, no, the operator literally had his hand on the controls, deciding where it went, screwed up.
Yeah. Is that like, I mean, I've seen a few people talk about how China is super far ahead. Like Ashley Vance, that's one of his favorite things to talk about is how far ahead China is.
Mechanically, yes, 100% mechanically. China makes actuators, makes this. But like I said, every time you see this really cool demo of a thing like that, like walking or running, you'll very rarely because again, they're company, but and those things are impressive, they're amazing. Unitree builds great stuff. But when you pan the camera to the left or the right, you'll see these guys holding RC control things and controlling them. And that's the thing that's the part of the trick we're not supposed to see, because when you see that, you go, oh, I get it. It's not this way. Cause like, oh, imagine a battalion of these just running into battle. And it's like, oh yeah, we're, it's like, Ukrainians using drones that they're controlling.
Yeah.
So the question that this was simply the prompt to get to. Everything that I've heard so far sounds like a lot of present tense reality based stuff, none of which was what I was interested in. What I'm interested in is if this is a mild depiction of a real thing that I'm fairly certain will happen when you have semi-autonomous complex systems. How do you measure liability? And the closest comp that comes to mind is dog attacks or animals attack, right? So,
I would say that autonomous vehicles on the road already are the thing we do for that. And that's been a lot of legislation time was spent figuring out, like, if your Tesla is in full self-driving mode and it hits somebody, who's accountable. That's why right now you have to click I'm accountable. You hop into a Waymo's accountable. And that's the thing, that the point at which whoever's engaging with it, there's an agreement between the owner of it and the person who's using it. So in a Tesla, if my Tesla decides to just run into somebody's house and go through the living room, Tesla says, well, Andrew, you signed the thing that said you're responsible. I get into a Waymo and does it. Waymo takes accountability.
That is also a present tense story that is interesting. That is not where I'm interested in.
What's your hypothetical then, Brian? Because you're saying if a thing does a thing, and I'm giving you examples of autonomous vehicles and things right now that are doing that and how that was decided. Where's the bifurcation?
Well, I'll tell you what, Andrew. I'm going to give you the end line of the movie, and then maybe we could go back and walk it together. But I was making a case that this moment in miniature is exactly what Michael Crichton spent his whole career predicting. This is a miniature Jurassic Park. And it's fascinating to me that you have a creation, humans showing up to gawk at the creation. You have the plan, and you have an unexpected complex system spinning out in a way where there is a consequence. And I'm fascinated by all the many interesting stories that could be in the future. But
Brian, if this was all I knew about robotics, or the only things I knew about this interaction, I would agree. But I'd say that going back to the history, like the first industrial robots that went out of the first industrial accident, 1960 robot killing somebody, following the whole autonomous driving debates back and forth and accountability there, I would say you'd have a different perspective on it. That's all I'm saying, is you would look at like, yeah, well, this is actually RC. I can go back 10 years earlier and show you other examples, case law, things like this, to say that where this was determined. But I like this, I go, yeah, well, this was a remote control thing. So I'll bring in, I can wax about this from an imaginary or, fiction sort of point of view, where I can say, well, this is where the data's been and what's been going on.
Well, my question was, in the future, how will this go, and what precedents do we have today? So, but meanwhile, it sounds like you certainly let somebody have it. I don't know who they are or what their situation was, but I would love to hear those stories as well, because I don't know the case law that comes before.
Okay. I mean, follow the Waymo stuff. You had the first interactions of when Waymo drivers were supposed to be accountable. The rollouts that's going out through there, you look at through what's been going on, the lawsuits against Tesla versus full self-driving, when they've been trying to sign accountability. I'd say like there's just, it's been, I'd say that we've been watching this roll out with autonomous driving.
And it does seem to be still actively litigated. Like people are still trying to figure out exactly who is,
but I'd say that the original hypothesis, what the question was, who is responsible? And I would say that right now we see that sort of it comes into two different places. Is you can have an operator, but it tends the relationship between the operator and the person who's engaged with it. In the case of, like I said, with a Tesla, when you sign in there and you click I take control, you're accountable because you're saying you're operating, and Tesla says you have to handle accountability. You get into a Waymo, fully autonomous vehicle, whatever. Waymos have had accidents, hit people, whatever. Waymo accepts the liability for that. And I'm not saying it's completely settled, whatever, but that is why we have these things on the road right now. This is why we have robotic vehicles driving out there at high speeds right now. It's because we've reached this sort of idea of who gets assigned responsibility for that. My issue with this was like, well, this was literally an RC robot, which was sort of a different example. Yeah. I know I got very pedantic on it, but I'm in a world now where that matters.
Yeah. I think, Brian, are you, I think the more interesting question here is who is like in the scenario that you are painting, who is morally responsible as much as legally responsible, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. Like in this snapshot of a moment, this is the closest to a real life Michael Crichton story that I've seen so far. And like nobody signed an agreement. They were there to see a cool creation, and then the robot attacked. Like it's a literal like I'm just curious to see where it goes.
I guess for me, it's like for me, it's like I'd be like, how would I parse this versus a drone show in China where the drones started falling down? And
That's
injuring
another
people?
good story we could talk about.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that one
know.
too.
Obviously, there's a ton of these. So I'm just saying, like, that's the thing for me is that like there's this, but I would say that the liability thing, whatever, it's ongoing, but it is going to become a point because we're going to enter the Isaac Asimov world where these things are going to do more complex behaviors, and you're going to say, no, I didn't tell it to do that. It decided to do that.
Yeah, I think it's God's fault.
Got him.
Got him. No, I don't know. I mean, like, if you look at, all right, so let's say this is more along the lines of like that there is a robot theoretically that had about the capability of like a Waymo today, right? And so now you were looking at, you know, in many ways, it'd be fractionally smaller the damage that a Unitree robot could do than like a Waymo, right? Because like Waymos have had examples, or autonomous vehicles have had examples where they've just hit people and they've died. Like, but if this was doing a Taekwondo demonstration, a Unitree robot boots a kid in the chest, and imagine that it is indeed totally autonomous. It's like, all right, well, who is it? The creator? Is it the person who put on the event and programmed like, hey, do the Taekwondo demonstration? Is it the people who decided where the people were going to go, where the crowd was going to go, and put them in harm's way? I mean, I assume like any.
Is
kind
it
of
the mayor
liability,
who
there's
insisted that it's 4th of July weekend and that the beaches needed to stay open?
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, I think that's.
Or like, I mean, like, is it somebody who didn't patch things correctly? The no sidekicks patch didn't go in, and so now there was a dangerous like XYZ. Like, I don't know. I think that it is more diffuse. Although I don't know if it's as diffuse as we might think. Like, there are more interesting questions to be had about it, but ultimately the person who says go robot go is going to be the one who's responsible, or the person who puts on the event no matter what happens. It's like, it's not the idea of like a robot kicking a kid is the first time that there would be danger in a crowd. It's like people are lighting fireworks or you know, hell, look at the concert in
Fireworks
Houston
is a
several years
good
ago.
comp, especially any kind of like Rube Goldberg-y kind of machine.
I mean, there have been I remember there's a
Races.
WrestleMania where fireworks lit something on fire and like trestle fell on people in the crowd. There was that Travis Scott concert in Houston several years ago where it was not anything crazy on stage. There was just gate jumpers that had crowded the floor so much that people got crushed and suffocated and died. Like there's a ton of different ways that people unfortunately can get hurt at these things.
I got a link for you. That's the last time of the rope this happened with the Chinese robot in a parade. And you can see it's another kid. Maybe Chinese robot hits kids, but they're saying this is the one where you see the guy run up to it. I'll send the link to you, Brian. You see the guy run up holding the remote control as the robot goes out of control. Then you see the guy go and stop it, which not as photogenic as, by the way, the other one that you showed me, the clown wing, it's been all over my feed. And literally as I open up Twitter in my feed, because it's like we're getting, you know, something like each week. But I just sent you the link. You can see this is another example of a robot hitting a kid.
He looks like he's had one too many, where he's just like having a good time. Oh wow.
And then you see, watch this. You see, oh, did you get the link I had? Because then you see that you'll see the angle there. You'll see the guy come running up.
Yeah.
There's the remote control.
Yeah. Hey buddy, let's get you back to your trailer.
So again, my point is saying, I was trying to say before, and I know we our enthusiasm for robots got very enthusiastic, is that like here I go, like, yeah, I'd say the guy at the remote control. This is my favorite. This is the dancing robot in the restaurant. Watch this. It's dancing. It's dancing. It's doing a little dance. It's pointing to its head. It's pointing. It's pointing. It's adorable, everybody. Look at the robot do his little robot dance. What's the problem? Why does anybody have a problem with this? Why would you object to this?
It just starts smashing the table, and then he's just like, I'm great, guys.
And
I'm
again,
having the
what's
time
in
of
a
my
person's
life.
hand? They've got in their hand is the remote control because they put it into dance mode or whatever. And
Yeah. They need
the robot won't stop dancing.
they need Commander Riker to turn off Data.
Yeah. Oh, another one. Oh my God. Brian's now found the magic feed. This is this prominent display. They brought out the most janky robot walking on stage, and the robot waves, and it's human sized.
Oh,
And
no.
Well, I mean, then we get back into my fascination with how people manage narratives in that moment, whether or not they act respectful for what appears to be a human body simulacrum passed out and trapped or whatever you.
I'll give you like a little, like kind of behind the curtain here. Is it like, and again, I'm biased because it's just now investing in the robotic space and stuff like this. And sometimes I want to tear apart other stuff that I think is garbage and, maybe need to be more kind. There are a number of robotics firms that have been around, have been together, and they have people with strong mechanical engineering backgrounds. Strong mechanical engineering, they understand a lot of different things that are needed to do bipedal walking, the different algorithms about like this, but they're not really strong in the neural network side or the, that part of it. And we're seeing some of these demonstrations and stuff. You go, well, that's really cool. The thing walks, whatever. It's kind of all it does, because the next step is really tricky. And I think we're going to start seeing really, really complex systems come into play. And I do think and to your point, Brian, the stuff that I said, hey, autonomous driving answered a lot of different things. That's fine when it says my instruction is take me from point A to point B and do this. And any deviations either responsible for me as the driver supervising it or as the company providing the car. But when it comes into, and I think within, we put a robot in your house, you assign some disclaimer, but when it's like, robot, go to the grocery store and go do this, there will be a lot of scrutiny on the instructions. There will be a lot more attention towards how those things are decided. And that is sort of, I think, the world that Isaac Asimov was foreseeing, was the idea that, hey, listen, these things could go there.
Well, and it's funny, like iRobot is almost the story of an actuary who's hunting down the cause of an industrial accident, right? Like you have a system with a decision tree that went afoul at some point. And all of that
Brian means the book, guys, not the movie.
Yes, exactly. Sorry.
Brian means
I did not murder him.
Yeah. But it's amazing to see that get closer, and it'll always happens, because however good the guardrails are, that is how far event planners are going to push them. The mayor's going to want to keep the beaches open, and that means each of these incidents, and yes, they're misrepresented by the media as being autonomous or whatever, but the reason they are is, of course, because we can all see the universe a few weeks, years from now, where these problems do get more serious. Like at some point, I don't know. It's interesting.
Did I tell you I saw a thing about iRobot, the movie with do you know who played the robot? The main robot?
He plays all the
Yeah,
robots.
Alan
If you need a lovable
Alan
robot
Tudyk.
or somebody to
It was
die,
an interview. Yeah, it was an interview with Alan Tudyk, and he was saying that when the movie was testing, his character tested like out of this world. Everybody that saw the movie was like, "Oh, the robot's amazing." But my favorite character was the robot, right? To the point where the studio wanted to kind of market the movie almost as kind of like a two-hander, that it was like Will Smith and
a robot.
Alan Tudyk in as the robot, right? Like that this was like a futuristic, playing into the futuristic side of it, of like, here's one of the greatest performances via CGI, that like it's so good you'll feel him through the camera, and that Tudyk suggests that it was Will Smith who was like, no, Like I'm not splitting billing with the robot. Like this is a Will Smith movie. It'll sell as a Will Smith movie, and that's that. But that Will Smith put his foot down, and Tudyk was a little salty about it because that was definitely going to be the biggest studio kind of backing for anything that he had done up till then.
Well, and I guess if you got beef with Will Smith, it's been a good couple years to air those grievances. You've had cover.
These days, yeah, no, now's the time. You know, his star has
gotten
waned.
complicated. He's up there next to Michael Jackson in stars with asterisks.
And it's frustrating because it's like you had some great Isaac Asimov stories, you know, the Elijah Bailey and the Daniel Olivov, you know, robot team up, like the one of the first human robot team up stories that
Caves of Steel.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Caves of Steel, there's a plot beat where there's a whodunit kind of classic mystery vibe to it. And at one point, it's like, it had to have been you're the robot. He's like, no, I'm the one person it can't be. It's like, but you're not a robot at all. You're a human. Why do you say that? Because when we went to the bathroom, you had a wee-wee. And why would a robot have that? He's like, I told you I'm an exact duplicate of the guy who made me. And I mean exact. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, moving on.
I guess they did some. Oh, they did a BBC did a version of the Caves of Steel back in 1964.
Huh.
Oh, that's the one. And then the other one was a Naked Sun. So very cool. Gentlemen, hold on. Brace for it.
Okay,
Ready.
Holding.
Totally not stalling, so I can pull up the email and actually get the facts right and just not make stuff up.
I mean, it's the internet.
I know. So there's been this is sort of a really interesting talk. You know, we talk about dark matter. Everybody talks about dark matter, but have you ever seen dark matter? Anybody have any dark matter?
I mean, I keep squinting. It keeps not showing up.
Amongst all the conversations that I've had about dark matter in the last year, I have never seen it.
Well, you know, makes one suspicious. So there is a primordial black hole candidate. The idea is that primordial black holes would have been started like very, very early on in the formation of the universe, right? Very, very early on, you know, kind of has different patterns for that. And there is one called Phoebe, which was visible towards the Large Magellanic Cloud. And they watched as this thing moved across an event, and it took like an hour, which was sort of this transient event, which, you know, does this thing where it warps the light around it. And the timing of it and the size of it made it a very, very suspicious, because they felt like for the size of it was like a lunar mass that would be more explainable and understandable if this was made of dark matter than if it had been like a traditional collapsed matter black hole. And this might be one of our first direct observations of a black matter object.
So dark matter, as I understood, deep in the periphery, is largely like a mathematical, like we've got all of our observed data of the universe, and we got some stuff that doesn't match, and then you hypothesize, but if there's some matter that we can't see, some kind of dark matter, then the equations work out. And so it's like, until we know something more, let's keep running with that. But so
all we know is literally all we know right now is what you just said.
Yeah.
It's just that is that we look at the galaxy and we go, not enough visible matter to hold together like this. There needs to be some other matter that we can't call it. That's it. And that's the thing, has been trying to look for.
Well, and keep in mind, it's so interesting because, and I adore this story. Einstein died believing that his fudge factor, he, you know, had a bunch of math that wouldn't work out. And he was like, I don't know, maybe there's a cosmological constant. And then he was like, no, that's dumb. That's like a fudge factor. And he died calling it his greatest mistake. And then in the time since he died, it turned out to be the most cited piece of work he's ever done, more cited than even the laws of special and general relativity. So it's remarkable when you open your mind to, I don't know. The numbers, the math works.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting to see. We now have AI that we can start throwing a lot of data, and there's going to be ways in which we can start, looking at a lot more information and a lot more stuff and processing that and looking for signal. Other question is GLP drugs. Been hearing about all the other benefits?
You know what? I saw, first of all, whatever story about GLP, I want to hear it, but there may be another remarkable therapy on the horizon. Did you hear about this cholesterol gene therapy?
No.
Yeah, I look forward to reading the full article, but early tests seem to indicate promising gene therapy that would make, instead of ongoing treatment for cholesterol, it's a gene therapy that would be, as the pull quote in the New York Times said, a one and done solution for cholesterol. So it's like alter the something gene, and then you don't have as much LDL.
If I remember correctly, there is a subsection of humanity that has a gene that essentially just keeps LDL cholesterol low. Like there's nothing that those people can do to raise their LDL cholesterol. It is very, very hard for them to do it. And part of it is just that they create an enzyme at a different level than other people. And this therapy theoretically just kicks off that enzyme production. And it just, once it's going, it's just going.
Andrew, you almost certainly know much more about this than both me and Justin put together. But when we hear gene therapy, like it's not like you take a pill and your DNA is all different throughout your whole body. What do you know about gene therapy? Because all I know is it's not the way I imagine it.
Well, Brian, it's an oral, not necessarily a pill, which could be. I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the way we do the one of the ways we do gene therapy is often is you use a virus. You use a virus because remember, a virus goes in and takes over the transcription stuff. And there's different categories of gene therapy, but much like a virus goes inside of takes over. Remember, we forget how freaky viruses are. They literally hijack into your cell, take over your DNA, the replication machinery there, and start saying this. And sometimes it gets screwed up and bits of the viral DNA get trapped in our own DNA, but once you use the same machinery. So gene therapy can mean either going into the cells and saying, hey, just start producing this, or using something that actually tries to rewrite the DNA of the stuff. So there's forms of it that will then extend to some things you just take, whatever, it's not going to get passed on to your kids. Some things can actually rewrite your DNA. So there's a few different kinds of gene therapy. But sometimes it's just literally take this pill and it's going to be producing, helpful genes or whatever in there. And it just sort of leaves.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I asked my doctor about it. The cholesterol drug. She had not heard of it. But I was like, yeah, because I'm in a situation where they want to lower my cholesterol, but it's a weird thing. I have I have a gene that will just always keep my LDL high. My whole family has it. But everything else that they test me for, I'm healthy. So all the remedies that they would normally give me, like radically altering my diet or working out more, it's like I'm doing it. My blood pressure is normal, it's just my cholesterol. So I was like, look, to be totally honest, I'm just trying to foul off pitches until AI cures death. So whatever we need to do just to keep the wolves at bay for another 15 years. I think we're going to hit escape velocity and we're all going to be here for another
this
several
ship of
thousand years.
Thesis is ready to roll, sir.
Yeah. I'm like, look, I just need to not get hit by a bus in the next 3 years. And I feel like I'm going to be fine.
Locks, blocks, GLP-1s though.
Yeah, they've been finding a lot of other benefits from it, from joints, maybe anti-aging, other conditions from this. And it's I would say that on one hand, we have to acknowledge for everything you do, everything Michael Crichton would say, for every time you alter a system, there is going to be perturbations to it too. But we don't need to be animus about it and feel like, I got this magic here. It must come at great cost somewhere else. Sometimes the cost is much more minimal. Sometimes you're basically just trying to avoid entropy. And this has been, there's really interesting data coming out showing this. We're already seeing effects, like people say like lingerie sales is up, which, you know, is that attributable to GLPs and whatnot? It's a nice thing to think about. And I would say too, a thing that we have to adapt to is like less people gamble. I don't think less people gamble, but like Las Vegas is, you know,
Oh no,
not as going.
I've got a friend who went on GLP-1s and dropped maybe 100, 200 pounds or something crazy, and also stopped his compulsive degenerate gambling. Like, and we're 6 figures minimum. Like, all of the casinos won't stop calling him because he was one of their high roller whales, and he just lost interest. And in fact, while we were out in Vegas, he's like, I think maybe they haven't figured out that I'm cured. And so he would get comps to things, but it's real. It's very real.
Yeah, and we've seen this already kind of decline, and sort of like that idea of that you know, gambling in general. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we account for what's going on in sports online, whatever, but certainly certain behaviors like that. And, you know, you hear people in the alcohol industry lamenting that younger people don't drink wine. A lot of people are like, they're doing edibles. And I'm like, well, maybe, but not like all the time. I think people just like smoking, that being drunk all the time is less accessible, you know, less likely, you know, and that's changes. And these things do have economic impacts, both positive and negative. And sometimes I'll sit with people who are involved in the alcohol industry, like, yeah, what do we do? And a first problem solver, like, well, and I'm like, no, this is good. This is good. I'm sorry. Change industries, get into something else. You know, this is the path, but I think it's going to be transformative. I think we're going to be seeing more of these things, and we need to closely monitor them and measure the effects. But it is crazy too how somebody pointed this out, that like a number of, you know, body positive entertainers who were very body positive have now suddenly slimmed down considerably. And it was like, oh, if there was a switch to make it as easy for some people as it is for others, then that is okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's probably a larger cultural question about exactly what those movements like are and were, but it is without a doubt healthier for you to be at a slimmer weight. I think that scientifically there's not much argument there. The GLP-1 side of it is fascinating, because that is stuff that we've seen since the very beginning of it, is that compulsive habits fade. And if you look at the compulsive habits that tend to define people, eating, drinking alcohol, and gambling are 3 of the biggest, probably smoking right afterward.
Now,
and all of them are damaged by GLP-1s.
Smoking and alcohol both have baked in pro-social aspects to it. So in the before times where there wasn't vehicles to find like-minded people who aren't geographically located next to you, or to have rituals to do it, you know, video games, etc., then smoking and drinking were a way for introverts to open up and reach out to extroverts. Everyone had to extroverts.
Eating too.
Yeah, I guess. No, that's right. Yeah. And I think that the lament, I think all things being equal, the restaurant business isn't so affectionate to alcohol for alcohol's sake. I think that they like a high margin thing besides the food, because the food doesn't keep the business afloat. Yeah. So they're hungry to say, we don't really care what the high margin thing is, but can we find a high margin other thing?
It's just, the thing is, that high margin thing, the more you consume of the high margin thing, the more it sells itself.
That was a lucky benefit for them for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, also an economic driver, you know. I mean, I think like restaurants, not exactly famously run by the most penny pinching people on the planet. They tend to be, you know, the kind of artists of the entrepreneur class. But like, you know, if you had a busy bar, you could make some mistakes on the food side. You know, you could have price spikes on certain ingredients and weather it, you know, because there was margin to be eaten into on the alcohol side. it'll be interesting if this is something that continues to go on, or there are just broader trends that bring down alcohol consumption. How feasible are kind of sit down restaurants in the same way?
Well,
Yeah.
I think that we're starting. Well, I don't know. I'm unprepared for this TED Talk, but I know that everybody's racing to figure out bespoke, whether it's weed infused cocktails or the non-alcoholic variants is a burgeoning, developing industry. You occasionally see hookahs and vapes as novel things.
Well, maybe, but maybe. I mean, Brian, I'm sympathetic to you, and I are both problem solvers, and we look at the thing, but maybe we just want to get rid of the thing. Maybe the idea is that maybe it's just fine dining. Maybe the idea that we do I don't know. Like, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm like, it's like when I want to lose weight, I realize don't get diet candies, don't get like the sugar-free versions of stuff, because all that teaches me to do is just crave candy. And is there, I don't know. I just think like, what if, like, I don't drink, so I think of like, what is that like for me when I go to a restaurant in my experience, and do restaurants just adjust pricing, just increase, make the dining experience more.
I think
Bake
it'll
in the
just be more
margins.
expensive. Yeah. I think it'll definitely drive prices up because you're going to have to make more margin on the meal than you would otherwise, or at least, it'll be interesting. I don't know what it is. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur now, if you're somebody who is into food, there's just as many people that like go into the food truck situation or ghost kitchens or things like that, where that's the idea. Like, that's a little bit more manageable. You don't have to pay, but then again, that doesn't have the downstream effects of hiring servers and dishwashers and cooks and a bartender and stuff like that. Like, and especially in a world where you want to onboard more and more people into the kind of workforce, like, those are great entry-level jobs that go away.
And I'll say something too, is that I'm a Taco Bell guy. Like, I'm like I love
There's
my
an
Taco
understatement.
Bell. Yeah. But as is a birthday tradition, my wife and I will go to French Laundry, and sometimes we'll take friends there. And as much as I'm, a fast food guy, I like it. I appreciate it. I really enjoy it. And I would say that if you thought of all the people who you would be able to take to French Laundry and have them go, oh, I really like this, I would have put my name on the list. But then all of a sudden, when I see the amount of attention, the amount of detail that goes into it, and you do look at popular as a show like The Bear, and then on other things, I do think there's a world where the restaurant industry does fine because people stop and, like, guys like me step back and go, oh, when they really care about a thing or really care about the food or the dish that goes in there, I will notice.
Yeah. I mean, French Laundry exists at the delta of a lot of different things that allow French Laundry to exist.
Yeah.
Like, there's money, there's prestige, there's the Napa of it all. Like, there's a lot. I don't know.
But, I mean,
though. I'd be curious.
Every town has the best restaurant or the better restaurants, though. Every town has the places that are better.
The question is, does that better extend beyond where you would think of just like, oh, is that worth it? Like, that's ultimately what people, especially when you get into higher margin food stuff, is like, oh, really? $50 just for whatever the dish is.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, because I think that because we all have friends that will deliberate back and forth for 30 minutes if you should get the $8 nachos, then order 5 more rounds of a beer they didn't really care for, but because it was they said it was a special or whatever. Like, we've watched people do that. I
do think that you might see these things strata out a little bit more. I think what might kind of be the victim are lower priced restaurants that could kind of count on a certain level of alcohol traffic So maybe chains like Applebee's or Chili's or something like that, where you have a fixed price for your food, but it comes in pretty cheap because they want to get families in the door. But also, the center of all those things are one thing: a bar, because they want that value of a higher margin business to come in. Maybe those kind of are the mushy middle, and then you see the Buffalo Wild Wings style, like, no, this is a place to drink and watch sports and eat wings. You limit that menu, maybe even a little bit more than it is right now, so you have cost assurancy. And then on the other side, maybe you do see more like, oh, this is an experience. This is a reason to go out, that we are going to charge you a little bit more for, but you're going to know where the money went. And maybe you pay the wait staff a little bit more. Maybe it's a little bit more concierge, but it's not budget. Maybe that's where we go.
I don't know. I think about this too, because I do think we talked about before, like, and Brian, your description of your friend, by the way, is fascinating. And just the other behaviors that just, I've heard this anecdotally, but not noticed anybody that does that. What are his food choices like?
What's interesting is when I started losing my weight, lost 35, 40 pounds. When I started on that, Bonnie casually brought up, "Hey, don't do those drugs. I don't want them to kill your ambition." And I understood intuitively what she meant. Like who knows whether it would or wouldn't, but the threat of that is like, especially with us, the three of us being in independent creation fields, you kind of want whatever that hunger, that drive to go out and kill something is.
I totally relate. Like I've had friends that have used it, and it's been wonderful experience and transformative for them. I look at it, and I'm also at that point where I can't, for you and Mouse to be like 30 pounds, like it's hard for you and I to sort of justify it, in a sense that we know that some lifestyle changes.
Exactly. I can only speak for myself. I knew for a fact that I knew what it took to get back to TV level fit. And even now, I see myself phoning it in on that last 20%. And so, I knew the recipe, and I had a track record of being able to do it. So it was just a matter of like, all right, I guess, hello, 5:30 in the morning, my new best friend.
Yeah. Where it's like, I have friends that their genes are different, and it's a different thing for them. And I get it. And it's also, they're dealing with a bigger thing where, for me, when I look at my fluctuation, I'm like, don't eat dessert every night. Like, don't do this, like, get out of your chair. And other people, it's more complicated than that. But I would say that, that for me was a thing too. It was just like, that's why I never did drugs too. Like I never did, because I was like, man, I'm pretty high output creative, and I'm not sitting here thinking I need to be more creative. And I'm very lucky that I know how to flip the switch and zone in and do something. So I'm terrified of messing with
of shaking the engine. Like, whatever it is, it's working.
Because I've seen people too, being in LA, like people like, oh no, it's great. And I'm like, you haven't done anything in 3 years. You feel great about not doing anything. You feel really good about the fact you haven't done anything, but you haven't done anything. I don't know.
The recursive loops that placate us or mollify us to do, like, whatever they are, it's dangerous. It might be the only villain you ever have to face in life, is just get out of that whatever thought process that begins and ends with not doing a thing. If you can just get to the world of doing it, and to get finally back to AI, because we don't talk about it enough on this show, but that's kind of what I know for me, working with Codex recently, has kind of unlocked. And you heard a lot of people with Claude Code or Claude Cowork a little while ago. From my money, Codex is kind of the top of the pops. But
that's the producer of the Open Eye podcast.
Yep, shill alert. But I don't think that it's a super controversial opinion these days.
No, I share it with you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But it's like, it's just the barrier for just annoying things. Like Brian and I, like World's Greatest Con. World's Greatest Con had a website problem because an old service we were using was SEO outranked to the service we were using, and it didn't have a great website. So it's like,
Also,
right,
it
we need a
was
new-
sending out the inaccurate signal that we were a one-season podcast that ended in 2020.
because we moved hosts after the first season, right? So it's like, all right, well, we need a new website. That's fine. But also it's just a lot of like little things that I don't know, little things that I could find out, but it's just, I just know it's going to be hours of my day. And Codex just being the grease to kind of like get things going. So now I am like, I'm never without, I'll put it this way. Anytime that I face a problem, I can ask Codex, how do I fix my problem? And it explains to me how to fix it. That's what went from a bad situation to like what Brian's showing right now is a website that was vibe coded from scratch and looks better than, in my opinion, looks better than what we would do on Squarespace or any
Yeah.
other kind of like make it piece by
That
piece.
looks
But
amazing, guys. That looks amazing.
My favorite part is it exists as opposed to the hypothetical one that we'd still be with.
and here's where it started. It started with just a Reddit thread that said, you know, Images 2 actually does this certain kind of art style well. And then Codex being really good at producing multiple images. So Brian, we were talking before we started about like Codex and Images. That's one of my favorite thing about Codex and Images is that you can just say, hey, make 20 using image gen, and it'll just make 20 things using image gen. And so I was like, all right, I didn't even tell it what to do. I just said, go to the RSS of World's Greatest Con, group these things by seasons and stories, and make this style art about it. And then it did. And I was like, oh, wow, these are pretty good. So then the next thing was, hey, what would a website look like if it was kind of wrapped around displaying this kind of art? And then it
What's the
spat out
URL?
that website, worldsgreatestconpodcast.com. But it spat out that website. And then the other thing is like, all right, so what else is annoying about this process? Notes. You send it to friends. Friends have notes. They want to change things. Like I'm working with Brian. Brian obviously very invested in the World's Greatest Con website. You want to know what Codex makes really easy? Notes. Because I just, in the verbiage that the person tells me to do a thing, I just say, hey, more of this, less of that. And it's like, it spits something out. I show it to Brian. I'm like, hey, does that work? And he's like, more of this, more of that, less of that, boom, boom, boom. It just made the whole thing really, really like fun. I guess that's the key. The key is just the fun part, is that it just kept breaking. It kept getting me back to the moments where my human intuition actually mattered.
And we could get feedback, the ability
regurgitating things.
to speed iterate and, you know, to grow a project rather than, you know, have scheduled at bats to maybe make your point this time and get it to be heard.
Yeah, we could do this in After Things because I think Brian and I collectively probably saved over like $10,000, like using Codex to go through billing and stuff. I got a bill from Liquid Web, which was the latest post to inherit Weird Things,
Mhm.
and it was $270 for the month.
Jesus
$270.
Christ.
Now we have a podcast, kind of popular, but it's not $270 a month hosting fees. And at first I said to myself, how did this happen? And well, it's, you know, we started off with on a Wired tree back in 2007, and then you get these acquisitions that go back and forth. And the next thing you know, they're like, hey, your WordPress site, you know, we're using WordPress. Hey, you should buy this service to help with this because you get errors. And the next thing you know, you're spending $100 a month on stupid WordPress services because WordPress is terrible.
Yeah.
And I said, $270 like that. When it was like $80, I was tolerable. I was okay with it. When I got to 270, I'm like, this is stupid. Called Codex. Go look through the entire the Weird Things site. download every single podcast we've ever done. And then it found some stuff that was also like on archive, whatever. And then I said, go through the whole archive, the whole site, everything, download every bit of data on their server. And it did that. And I said, build a weirdthings.com website, create an archive for iTricks, which have done the same thing, and built a very simple Weird Things podcast site. Every single episode now is there, now with an RSS feed, served through Cloudflare, which I love for hosting this stuff. And my $270 a month bill is now, let me check the math, 80 cents.
That's less.
Yes. For those not into math,
Mm-hmm.
that's the world we're living in. And I would say that it took me some time to do it and to be thorough to make sure we got all the episodes. And it's also like, if somebody said, yeah, but you screwed this up, whatever, cool, I'll tell Codex to fix it.
Fix it.
You know,
Yeah.
I switched the RSS feed, everything. I got it completely off of WordPress, had it build its own RSS handler, went in there, did all of that. And, you know, people are listening to this episode. It worked. If it's not, you're not listening, then you'll never know.
I mean, I think when you look at the economic impact of a lot of this kind of stuff, what I think is going to come to a close is a lot of gravy trains, like a lot of like real gushers that were pumping a lot of money.
I would imagine if I was in a cartel that had somebody on the hook for a monthly fee for a thing, I might be a little bit nervous.
Well, I mean, especially if it's not delivering. And that's the other thing, is that it's like, okay, I don't know if, you know, us shredding a bunch of money on subscriptions is also ending up in people losing jobs per se. Because I think that a lot of these professions that have this gigantic money factory, I don't know if they're hiring. Because if they were hiring, maybe their service would be better. Maybe they'd be offering different things. You look at something like Cloudflare. Cloudflare is a remarkable company that has only continued to offer more and better things. And like, as I've gotten more into the vibe coding thing, it's amazing how much all roads lead to Cloudflare. That Codex will just be like, I'm like, hey, I want to do this. Cool. We're just going to plug it into Cloudflare. We're going to do it like, and it's where it works right in Codex. You can just deploy it right through there. And it's like, wow, it's, and guess what? Their prices are competitive. They have phenomenal customer service. They continue to offer new products that stay up with the market, and they're doing great. They're doing fine. If you're a hosting service that is relying on the idea that people are just too bored and lazy to move a thing, and instead they will just justify the cost in their head as a lazy tax, you know, the lazy taxes might go down. You know, the churn. I think some of these subscription services for like TV, you know, now that it's easier to cancel, it's easier to resubscribe. Like,
I'll tell you what, like, it's a good time if you want to save a lot of money. It's already been a good time to add and to subscribe and cancel subscriptions very, very easily, especially within, for example, the Apple ecosystem or your Amazon ecosystem. They've already made it very, very easy. But now we're at a fascinating time, as Justin and I were talking about the other day, where a doodad is becoming a layer. And right now, there's a lot of doodads, but soon there'll be a layer where you won't even know what you're subscribed to, because the very notion won't make sense. You'll just know that you want a thing, and then it shows up there when it comes to all of your video content. Or somebody says, hey, check out that whatever, subscribes to it, maybe for all you know it, unsubscribes the moment the credits roll.
There's OpenAI's launched. If you go to the Codex site, if you go to, well, where do I find this? If you go to developers.openai.com/showcases, showcase rather, you can see one, they've launched a new feature for Pro and Enterprise, which will eventually make its way to everybody else, I assume, which is to make it even easier to launch apps or websites, so they'll host it for you.
yeah,
Which
That's
which I
crazy.
think that, and I think that's the thing for a lot of it's stuff for small usage. I think for stuff like what we do, it makes sense to go push it to Cloudflare, but they have a lot of games, a lot of other examples of stuff. And I think that I'm just excited about the things that we experienced as builders, you know, and then you guys now as coders, as other people get to do it, and then as younger people just treat it as second nature to just build a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I think
a-
sorry,
It's a
Brian, go
beautiful
ahead.
time.
You think about, I think we three have been through that period of just having so much energy and want to create something, but the tools weren't quite within our grasp or the knowledge.
Yeah.
And you just want something that pulls you forward a bit. And I think we're just really in a great place with that with generative AI. So they have this examples here. If you go to developers.openai.com/showcase, when you click on stuff, they'll show you the prompts that were used to create stuff. There's some fun games and different things. They have things too, including, you know, like the sites that people are creating, and then the games, like landing page examples. So when you click on, you know, one of these examples of like a game or whatever, it shows you the prompt that was used to create it. And it's also like crazy to like, I go back to when GPT 3.5 came out, and I wrote my breathless blog post about being able to make the dumbest games and how many steps it took me to go through to get it to work. And now it's, you know, neon style, build it, do this feature, this, whatever, and then boom.
You know,
going.
we're verging a little bit into after things territory, but there's a sense that that I had that maybe I was too late for X, Y, and Z, but the barrier to entry is just getting lower and lower. So if you have been on the edge of like, man, I don't want to start now, it's too late. No, it's the on ramp is shorter than ever. You start today with anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I did?
And-
So now that Codex can run on PCs and actually control PCs, yesterday we did the bonus podcast, and normally it's like, I don't know, 30 to 40 minutes of tedious stuff. But this time when I did it, I just opened a project in Codex and I said, hey, I'm going to show you what I do, and I want you to see if you understand it, and then tell me if you could do it. And so first I took a screen grab and I showed the file and where it is. Then I moved the file to where I moved the file. And then I opened Audition, and then I selected the preset, and then I unchecked the two redundant parts of the preset to sweeten the audio. Then I sweetened the audio. Then I exported just screen grab of each of these. There's maybe 20 screen grabs at the end of it. And I say, were you able to piece together what I did? And then it, boom, came out with a 20-point checklist. And it's like, well, can you do it? It's like, yeah, although I would advise you to not let me publish. Let me get up to the point, and then you could check X, Y, and Z to publish. I'm like, that's great. I'll see you in a week. And then next week, I'm going to say, are you ready to try this together? And then, and this is all, it added maybe 15% to the already budgeted time for things. But then within a week or 2 weeks, it'll be not a thing I do after lunch with Justin. It'll be a thing I begin and then go to lunch and then come back to find out that it's done.
And
Yeah,
watch
Brian
it happen
does
on your phone.
Yeah, connecting your phone is amazing. And Brian does not have a lot of time. And I think everybody sort of justifies going, well, I don't have the time to do this. I don't have anything to do it. And it's like, there's a concept called technology debt, which is where you build so fast that you create all these problems you have to solve later. There's also technology debt in that you took so long to wait to do anything that
That you never
now
began.
find yourself that the cost of catching up is so high.
Yeah, if you're on the fence, you can maybe set a rule of like, however much time you have, you could probably add 10% to see what's possible. So just make, you know, and again, the cognitive leap is a lot. It's a lot to rethink your entire workflow of stuff, and it's exhausting. And I don't blame anyone who doesn't want to.
Here's a solution for people. So there was this meme going around in an anti-AI sense that was like, hey, we wanted robots to do our laundry and balance our checkbook, not to do our art and write our poetry. I'm here to tell you with Codex, have it do the figurative laundry and checkbook balancing.
Yes.
Don't look at Codex as doing the cool stuff
Yes,
you want.
it's not the thing that
like,
steals
do
the thing you
boring
love.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Do the stuff that's annoying to you. Like I have to pay out multiple shows like every month. It's coming up. It's like right now. This is like this weekend. I have to pay out shows because you do shows with friends and everything comes to one pot. Somebody has to be responsible for divvying it up. A lot easier with Codex. I can have it go, hit the button, go to the different things, and I'll try to automate more of that process this week. But I tried to automate a little bit of it last month. Do it with that because that's a bigger lift than trying something creative. Because if you're trying something creative, there's a lot that goes into it of your own judgment, and that can be fun, but you got to trust the tools first. It's way more rewarding to try the tools to do boring or frustrating things, because when those break down easier, you're like, wow, now I'm saving time.
I don't know if I told you this, Andrew, but one of the items that has been a 27 year albatross around my neck was when the 866 toll-free exchange opened up. I was able to nab 866-4MAGIC-4 and 866-EAT-FIRE. And I knew that those were pretty good vanity phone numbers. And for decades, I've spent $30 to $40 a month on a now antiquated thing for maybe one call per quarter, but I'm not ready to give it up. And then once I started talking to my money as a cloud, it said, well, why don't you get rid of it? And it's like, well, instead of that, you could pay $2 a month for Twilio. It's like, great. And I got as far as my kryptonite, the bane of my existence. Here, Brian, just fill out this 5-page PDF. That would have been the end of the discussion. I would have reached in my wallet and $35 to $40 would have gone out again. But instead, I said, but what, will you take out the laundry and do the dishes? And it said, yes. It took me 30 seconds. And now I've transferred them and it's done.
Yes. I get these domain updates. Like I'm paying like $24 a year for like shockmagic.com. Not a lot, but more than I should be paying, like $10 elsewhere. And over the years, that adds up. Now it's easy enough for me to press the button or write the code to tell Codex, go move this to Cloudflare, ... And I've been counting up how much I've been saving on all these little things. I go, it's a little inconvenience, but then you get to a point where it just becomes so easier to do it. I think some other companies are in for a big reckoning, and I think that we're in it's an amazing point to be in. I will say this. I would go just touch Justin brought up the people who are like, we didn't ask AI to do our art thing, poetry. Like, guess what? You can still do art and poetry and write. I still write books. I still write novels. I'm writing a book right now. I'm not even using dictation. I'm literally typing it with my fingers. And I get to write that book because I have more time to write the book because I'm letting AI do a bunch of other stuff. But also when I hear people say we didn't ask it to make our art or whatever, it's like, you're not talking about your art. You're talking about the idea of having to compete with it, like other people's art. And I think we have to get into a point where we acknowledge.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of, I almost don't even want to acknowledge that kind of stuff. Like Brian and I have had this running thing over the last week of just like, it's like, who made the art on the new World's Greatest Con website? Magic, if you're gonna be mad about it. It was magic.
Yeah, would you have
a magic trick? Like whatever, like like whatever. Just if you're gonna be mad, you're gonna be mad. Like the only thing that's different is I made I made a dozen websites that were terrible. And guess what I used for the art? Either things that I copied without copyright from the internet, or terrible pictures that I took because I don't have any nice pictures of myself, or the one set of pro photos that I took of myself. That's it. Did you see
the Martin Scorsese ad for the company that's using generative AI for helping like film planning?
For storyboards? Yeah.
Yeah. And in the middle of a lot of people saying things that they have to say performatively too. That's part of it. Is just some people who are like, oh no. So he's advising for Black Forest Labs, which makes Flux, some great video models, and he's getting backlash. But I also think that if anybody's earned the right to say, hey, I understand my role as an artist and where I begin and the tool ends,
It's Marty.
yeah, and I was glad to see that. I think he's at the 0 F's to give point. I know some Grammy Award winners. I know some Oscar winning directors, some other people that feel the same way. They're less willing to come out about this because they're at certain points in their career. But I will tell you that some of the more talented somebody is that I've known, or some of the more prolific they are, the less afraid they are. And there's they're very deeply into this stuff too.
Hey,
well,
who's got
on-
picks?
I'll say on After Things, by the way, if you're a subscriber, that's the podcast we do after this. I think Brian and I will go into some of the ways that we've been using Codex to save money and some of the methods we've had. And I would say that like it will be the one episode that will justify having been paying for this ever.
Yeah. Yeah. My pick is Spider Noir. The first episode, yes, it does exactly what you'd expect. It lays out all the pieces of a story, and you get to gawk at, oh my gosh, that's a riff on this character and that character, and I wonder if we're going to find out how he got his powers. By the end of the third episode, you realize, oh, I'm really fascinated by this power dynamic, and these alignments do make things complicated. And wow, I kind of do want to know how he got his powers now, because it's not this. And then and it gets really good. I'm on episode 7 right now, really enjoying it. Yeah, that's you get to see a de-aged Nicolas Cage move like a not de-aged one.
Not an anti-pick, but we're finishing The Boys. You know, it's the end of The Boys.
Still doing the did they finally shock you? Did they finally come up with something that you couldn't believe? Did they finally cross the
They make you
transgressive
think,
line?
Justin.
Yeah. It lost the interest of being a superhero show at some point. This is a point I've made on I don't know if I think I made it on Great Night, but like all of the scenes, the superpower scenes, you could pretty much tell the same action set pieces if they just had guns. There's like nothing like super interesting or fascinating or like pushing the limits of the various powers, which are usually the hallmark of like really cool superhero stories. It's just sort of like, oh, boom, you're dead. Uh-oh, I could kill you. My superpower is stopping you from opening that door. It's like,
I'm scissors. I can cut anything, especially paper. Can you cut rock? What? Oh no, I can't. Nothing
No,
can
that-
cover me. Except
That's-
what about me?
That would be cool.
that would be cool, right? That'd be an example of a good,
Oh.
because then there's only certain ways you can do it, as opposed to just everything being like, oh, my superpower can kill you or stop you. It's like, okay, well then that's a gun. We might as well. That's every action movie.
Yeah, the early seasons, and when they were kind of a lot more faithful to the comic, not to say the comic has to be the benchmark for what you do, there was a lot of every power might have a weakness, or they might be unaware of a thing. You know, powers make
Yeah.
you arrogant. And I love that idea of like, you know, Lex Luthor knew, hey, Superman's super fast. What do you got to do? Oh, make him find Lois Lane, who's in the middle of peril and about to be dropped into the cement mixer. Superman's busy doing that. Well, I get a rob. And that was clever. It's like, oh, how would you, and you would see that later on, like, well, how do you fight somebody who's super strong? With your brain. You
Yeah.
outsmart them. And that's the great thing. But then you get into, I like Zack Snyder a lot of things about him as a person, some of the stuff he's done, but a lot of his movies just been, it's now we punch, more punching,
Yeah.
and more superpowered punching. And you're like, where's the clever parts? You know, where's this? And that's what The Boys was just, I haven't watched the latest season, but I felt like you're in a role with powers. Powers are cool. Powers can also be used against people because they get lazy.
Well, there's also, we haven't gotten to the final episode. We're on the second to last episode, but there's a character there's a sequence of events in which a character demonstrates a power and then makes a decision that completely invalidates the drama of the decision that he has just made, because you know the power can instantly undo it. So it's like, oh, there's no consequences to him making this decision. Like, this is just, totally useless. We're just, literally doodling on a piece of paper until class ends. So I don't know. It's sloppy. I think certainly that cast seems like everybody except Carl Urban seems like they're kind of over it. Anthony Starr still, I think, has a really good time playing Homelander, and Carl Urban playing Butcher is still somebody who's like putting his whole 100%, but like everybody else feels like they are just hitting fast forward. And it's just one of those things where it's like the mute character started talking, and it's just it's like,
did the masked character show his face?
Yeah, it's like okay, how much did the agent bitch, or like was it in the contract renegotiation that like the actress wants to talk because otherwise she's gonna be typecast as a mute or something like that? And it's like, oh, okay, all right, well, I guess that makes you less interesting as a character, because that was the cool thing about you, is that you had this limitation and now you don't.
I hear you. I think that it's just as longer these shows go on, there's a problem. There's the reason sometimes showrunners just want to do like 5 seasons, or they want to do that because they know at a certain point your actors are going to get rambunctious. You're going to have more demands. It gets higher, and you're only going to make so much money per season, and the costs go up so high, and it's hard. Networks like, we want it forever, and I think there's ways to do that forever, but then also you just sort of write yourself into a different place. My favorite story though is that Anthony Starr, they were shooting a scene in like some big auditorium filled with people, and Anthony Starr is dressed as Homelander, and somebody's cell phone goes off. And he just yells at the crowd, like, shut your goddamn phones off. And they're like, we're watching Homelander scream at us.
This is so awesome.
That's amazing. There was one story during the monoculture. Happy Days was a cultural tour de force. And this is in the before times where giant events would happen and more people could show up than could enjoy the events. And there was a scene, sometimes mob frenzies would occur, and with 5,000 people in this one area, all there to see Ron Howard and Henry Winkler, there was a moment that they were in a dangerous spot. They didn't have any bodyguards. There was an over promotion to the event or whatever, and they needed to get from point A to point B. And if it was the kind of thing, if one person started getting pawy on them, it was going to be a problem. And Henry Winkler did something he's never did again. The notoriously introverted, shy Henry Winkler adopted the persona of the Fonz, and he leaned back and he goes like, all right, listen up. Here's how it's going to be. You're going to make a tight line all the way down. Now move it to the side. One person touches the leather, you're done for. And everybody responded to the character, and it was like parting the Red Sea. It was amazing.
He had such power as the Fonz. I love Henry Winkler, but he could have done so much more good in the world. Did you see the Russell Crowe clip that went viral of him with the crowd in front of like the hotel, I think in Italy or France?
No. Try to look it up.
So TMZ says, oh, Russell Crowe, look how rude he is to his fans or whatever. It's him stepping out of a hotel, like just being besieged by autograph sellers. Let's be clear. These were autograph sellers who already had, gladiator posters, things like this. The whole idea that this was just an organic group of like fans, and also somebody conveniently recording the whole thing and knew how to sell stuff to, TMZ, right? And listen to this audio. I want you to hear this, Brian. Start it from the beginning. Listen to the audio.
Okay, there we go. Here, I'll go back from the beginning. Oh, no, I can't while I'm in manager mode. Here, I'll just refresh it.
Hi, Russell. How are you doing?
Are you listening?
Yes.
Stay where you are.
Okay.
Don't push in on me.
Sure.
I'll come to you. Just give everybody space.
Okay, sure.
As soon as somebody's a dick, go.
Okay.
You got me?
Yes.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
No signing.
Yeah, he's signing.
He's signing everything being given to him. One guy asked, like, would you do it sign Maximus? And he's like, no. And he got, like, TMZ wanted to say, oh, look how, I'm like,
Wait, that's
he
the
signed.
okay. Yeah, they're
Well,
overselling it. That weren't nothing. That was good snake management.
Yeah, he said, I'm on my way to the airport. I step out. He doesn't have any staff with him. There's this whole crowd of people wants his autograph. The hotel
Yeah.
staff's like, what's going on? People want to get it out. He managed it. I thought like he was in control. He didn't say no, wasn't rude. He said, here are the conditions. If we're all cool on this, use, Russell Crowe language, which is fine. And then he signed everything, even though knowing full well, these are not fans. These are people going to put them on eBay or mark it up or sell this. I was like, to have that kind of control and discipline and to get everybody's needs met. That was assertive. It wasn't aggressive. It was, I will help you. Just follow these rules and everything's going to go smoothly. The moment you break up, you create a problem, whatever, fawns, the moment you touch the leather jacket, whatever, we're moving on. It was great.
Yeah.
What's your pick, man?
I got 2 picks here. Okay. Pick number 1 is I'll just do 1 pick right now. I watched the Hulk Hogan biography on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 4 episode Netflix bio they did. Spoiler alert, Hulk Hogan dies and in the middle of production of this thing. And loved it. Really, really loved it. They went deep into a lot of stuff, a lot of the controversies. I think you came away with a pretty good understanding of the guy. People close to him might feel differently, what have you. But I actually thought it felt, because like there's a lot of stuff like later on when he went political, which Hulk had never done that before and whatnot. They got flack, handled some of the different controversies and stuff. I thought it was really well done.
That's great. And that's on Netflix?
Yeah.
There's a tweet that made me laugh because there's been a rash of wrestling documentaries that have been kind of mainstream on Netflix. It's just like wrestling documentaries are great because it's The Rock wrestling somebody dressed as a volcano. And then Vince McMahon comes on and he's very serious to the point of crying, saying that man was the greatest volcano that ever lived, just like his father.
It's funny. Like the funny thing for me too is when you go to Wikipedia and you read wrestler bios, and they will talk about these matches like they are Olympic events. For this, he was up against so-and-so and he defeated him in this. They're like, all right. It's like, it's like Patrick Stewart playing King Lear. And third act, it was a little bit unsure if he was going to be able to deliver the powerful speech that would rally everybody. It's like, listen, everybody, you're talking plot. It's fine. Like we're shifting from their career to plot points of characters they played.
Yeah.
So that's my pick. The Hulk Hogan wrestling biopic. Oh, and my other little add-on pick is they mentioned in there, how the Rocky appearance kind of pushed him over the top. And so, you know what? I haven't watched in a while. Rocky Balboa. The 2006 film. When's the last time you guys watched that?
I think 2006. I saw it in the
Probably
theater.
that. Yeah.
It is really worth a visit because it's probably one of my favorite Rocky films.
It's great.
And it's a great because it's you go watch it and then you watch Rocky. Like also with the first Rocky, there is the version of Rocky in people's heads, and then there's what Rocky is.
Mhm.
Rocky's a story of a broke guy with no family in Philadelphia, clinging to his community and the people around him. And by the way, gets a really cool job offer at the end. And he's a smoker, he's out of shape and whatnot, and has to sort of meet the opportunity he never got. And the opportunity is a boxing match, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
And the funny thing too, though, is like you go watch Rocky and you watch Rocky Balboa. No disrespect to Philadelphia, but you watch Rocky and you're like, man, Philadelphia looks really rough. And they talk about how it's declined. Then you watch Rocky Balboa and you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize Philadelphia could look worse.
Oh, wow.
because like they'll be like, this is where so and so live. Fast forward 30 years later, oh yeah, that building next door is burned out. It's fire, so they having to fix the fire damage, and buses don't come here anymore. There's no guys on the stoop singing doo-wop. It's just meth heads and whatnot.
Amazing.
Yeah, less musical the street chuffs are these days.
Yeah. So anyhow, gentlemen, it's been weird.
Got it. Nailed it. Are you joining us for After Things, Justin?
I think I have to get some stuff done here before the baby gets back. So I will bid you adieu.
Okay. Well, here, let me here, I'm just gonna put this Vibe OS thing on so I can run to the restroom. There. Did you see this, Andrew?
No.
Oh, this is neat. You'll like this. There we go.
So I'm going to show you, and I need to introduce you to a completely new operating system that's going to change everything about how we work. So, introducing Vibe OS, okay? It's the world's first completely hallucinated operating system. All right, and I'm going to show it to you right now. So, firstly, it is a real operating system. I can boot it. It's a VHDX file here, about 1.3 gigabytes. Could probably make it smaller. I didn't bother. I could boot it on bare metal, but I'm not going to. Going to boot it in Hyper-V. And so you will see that boot up nice and fast. It's very efficient. And when that comes up, you'll see it's got a beautiful user interface that allows our user to be highly productive. Okay, so here we go. We're ready to get started with that. It's a bit hard to see there, so let's just switch to a full screen view. And we're going to start by running a few of the applications that are built in here. So we'll get some of the classics going. So we'll have Notepad, we'll have Calculator, we'll have Internet Explorer. And the thing that's unique here, the thing that you will never have seen before, is that in these applications, there is no code at all. Everything in all these applications is being hallucinated in real time by the AI. So there's no buttons, there's no event handlers, there's no logic to say what to do, but the application works. So if I do 5 divided by 3 and then equals, if I can find that, it's up there this time, it's 1.6. Okay, so it works, right? But I didn't write any code, and neither did AI. There's no AI written code either. It's just producing UI exclusively with nothing behind it. And we've got Internet Explorer here. Unlike the boring operating systems that you use today, this solves one of the big problems that people have, right? People are always wondering when they're on their internet, is it AI or not? But in Vibe OS, you don't have that problem. There's no question to be answered because the answer is always yes. Everything is AI. So if I want to, I can go to, I don't know, let's see if we can find whether Scott Hanselman has a Wikipedia page, shall we? So I'm going to go to google.com here, and let's do a search for Hanselman Wikipedia, and we'll do a Google search there. And I don't need to remind you this, but all of the content you're seeing is completely hallucinated, right? So it's just coming directly out of the model, and the UI is being updated in real time as we go. And here's a beautiful picture of Scott Hanselman. I'm not sure about that one. All right, but it goes further, right? We're not limited to these built-in applications. We can search for any app that we want, and everyone always does like to do app demos. So anything that I search for, I'm going to find, and it will just be created for me on the fly, all right? So let's see what else we could find in here. Let's go for one of the classics, Encarta 98. Everyone loves that one, but it's all about Mark Russinovich. All right? And so we can get a fully customized version of Encarta 98 on whatever subject we're interested in. Obviously, this is
So
always...
he does like command.exe, but it's rude to you, and then starts surfing the web, and just whatever,
Yeah.
it just fills it in.
Yeah, it's been a genre of a thing. Lucas already had an exit from his company ODAP, which was in Y Combinator last year, which did just that, but actually it was useful apps.
Wow.
He literally he built a whole prototype. You should talk to him sometime. Lucas, our friend Lucas Negrito, you should talk about it sometime. there was very, very simple early ones back in the way. You just like, you'd pretend to be like a terminal. And then Lucas went in and built a system that was just, it was just the UI, and the AI did everything else behind the scenes.
It's interesting because just like watching the robot kick a kid is kind of a proto little thought experiment of a Jurassic Park. This is kind of a proto little thought experiment of the Matrix, of simulation theory, where it's like, you know, you're in an OS, you're going to places, reading things, doing stuff, and it doesn't matter that there's no there beneath the surface, as far as you could tell.
Yeah, so it's interesting because, like, you know, the problem you run into when you're really practical thing is just you get security and roles and things like this. But I think that there's because we looked at the challenge was for really useful apps was it was better to have it spit out a runtime to run the app than just to keep hitting the API for the app the AI to do it. But it was so cool to watch the AI because you could literally. One of the things he built at one point was just like an API that you would just hit it and tell it, give me this, and it would just make up anything you needed. It's a very interesting space. And you will get to a point too, where it might be more efficient instead of having like an OS that you actually have a really, really good, you know, AI that is fast enough to sort of do these things that gets that sort of stuff. So I think you're right. I think it's kind of an indication of the future. But yeah, like I said, yeah, Lucas had his company ODAP, which the Y Combinator, which did the whole generative interface stuff. And Lucas, I think, already had an exit on that.
That's great. Congrats to him. Shall we do some after things, good sir?
That'd be fantastic.
All right, here we go. Ready to go in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the After Things podcast. My name is Andrew Main, and I am joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello, 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 hello.
Brian, you're a hero to me.
What? I don't get
Brian,
that. First of all, that is high praise, sir.
You know, and it's well earned, and I would say that it is at our point in our careers, it becomes very easy to be complacent and to become carbon copies of ourselves. And to just sort of do less, figure out where things work and do the things, only things that work, do less of that, whatever. But, you know, you've built a business, you employ people, you have a family, you have a fan base, you've done this. And amidst all of this, you realize how fast, you've always known the world changes fast. You've been taking time to really embrace generative AI and coding and to do these things. And watching you just pop up and do a thing, and not toy problems, but real problems from a business point of view, is inspiring.
Well, I appreciate that. It's hard. I mean, that's part of, you know, in our discussions, a thing that I keep trying to express is how much I don't blame anybody who is just overwhelmed by it all. And indeed, like if you have a gig, all things being equal, we want to keep our gig because it is comfortable. It is extremely hard to wrap your mind around shaking things up. Now, in my case, enough things, it was time to change that I hit kind of a reshuffle moment. Maybe turning 50 had something to do with it, but it's hard. And among those things is getting over the deep concerns I have about privacy and about the information that I feed my own mind and all that stuff. But I don't know. But when ChatGPT announced, hey, you could talk to your money now, I was like, oh man, I'm really intrigued. And it was on the other side of, thankfully, a Plaid third-party connector, which somehow made me feel much, much better about it. I don't know why. But
yeah. Do you want to give people context on that?
Yeah. Well, basically, I mentioned like a money question, and it said, hey, you do the $200 a month pro plan. You can now talk to your money. You connect all of your accounts. You connect your bank accounts. You connect your checking and savings and credit cards and money markets and your IRAs or whatever. And I'm like, but then what? It's like, whatever you want. And again, it's that awkward blue sky problem where it's like, we don't even have the words to say what it is. The answer is, what do you want to do? And it's like, I don't know. And so but developing the habit of just seeing what's possible. I, again, summoned a patient intern and I said, what are all the subscriptions that are stupid in my life or potentially stupid? What are all the orphaned ones? One of them that we found, one of the last ones to cancel so far, was there was a sneaky GPS dog collar service that we had 5 years ago that snuck in on the annual plan, charging a card that had been changed twice since then. But oftentimes they squirrel through, and this once a year little sneaky Pete made it through at $500 since we canceled it. We were finally able to stop that bleed, stop that flow. And that was just the beginning of it. In about 4 hours, I canceled $5,000 of savings through the rest of the year. That's just this year. And then who knows? And then what's funny is, as I got into the weeds of canceling more and more things, I'm like, what else you got? And it said, you might think I'm making a joke. I'm not funning with you. I noticed that last year you subscribed to Rocket Money, and I know you did it so that you could cancel a bunch of subscriptions, but I'm here now, so you may consider getting rid of that one. And I'm like, danged if you're not right. Because Rocket Money, you know what it did? It correctly documented just how insurmountable all these obligations were. And it did nothing to help me, or not enough to help me. Whereas I got so much done.
I'm borderline thinking Rocket Money is a bit of a scam, because I had to think, oh, we renegotiate your bill, and it renegotiated like my Comcast bill, and then like, oh, look at the savings, they're great, and like now you pay us for the things we save us. I'm like, cool. Like 3 months later, my bill went up.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that's not the thing. And so I don't know. I'm with you. Like I mentioned, I first tried this with the Operator, the OpenAI's first sort of agentic sort of browser app tool, which was kind of hamstrung by a lot of problems, including, the lack of a good model. And then with Codex, but I was able to do a thing. I had it like actually with ChatGPT Atlas. I went through my AWS account because I was just getting all this weird ghost billing for services and stuff that I don't know what they do, from having sometimes just spinning up like hobby projects and stuff that they tell you like, oh, be sure to shut it down, but it's so hard to do that. I saved several thousands of dollars of yearly billing by that going into AWS. Then when they enabled the Gmail adapters for Codex, I said, go look through my Gmail, through all of my recurring billing. And then I downloaded my Apple Card statement and I uploaded the PDF. I'm like, find everything that's reoccurring, whatever, make a list of stuff that I can go through here. And I started, and that was the first thing that popped out, was I was paying $270 a month for us to host the Weird Things website and the podcast, which is stupid. And, I said, screw that. I don't like WordPress anyways, as WordPress is just a security nightmare. And I said, let's just keep it simple on Cloudflare, and spent an afternoon doing others. That's one thing too, people understand. Like when we say we're codexing, we're giving instructions and then we're going back to doing something entirely different. We go back in, we check that it worked. We're getting a lot of other work done while the AI works in the background. And then in the afternoon, I went through, ran all kinds of tests to make sure everything was fine, deleted that account, and saved myself over $3,000 a year. Like, half a car payment, our small, like a Tesla. I was paying, if you want to get a used Tesla on a lease or whatever, it's like $300 a month. I'm paying for an effing Tesla to be able to host this. And I think that everything's relative, and a lot of people are like, well, I don't have that kind of problem. I know, but you do have other billing and reoccurring stuff. You do have things that you're maybe not thinking about, like paying off credit card balances and stuff. It is a godsend. And I think that more people learn how to be able to do this. I think that people are going to find they're going to have more money. They're going to have more control over their money. They're going to understand how to plan better. And this was one of the reasons I was excited to work on AI, because I just felt like, we talk about, you go, what does AI, what does the future mean? Pretty much everything a billionaire has now that we could all have. Anything that a billionaire has that everybody else could have if you could just make it cheaper. We can't all have Hawaiian Islands, right? But we can all have jets and other stuff, and financial advisors. And a financial advisor is one of the reasons why the rich get richer, because they have other people helping them figure out their money.
Yes.
And
the hope, the wish is for somebody to be competent out of the gates. But I think it's important to note that a lot of these, a lot of the ultra wealthy, oftentimes there are people who came up with them, or they get people who start as interns, and there's a culture mismatch, and then they have to train them. Like, I think of what I'm doing every day as I document the repeat things. At the very least, I'm building a training guide for when my daughter comes down from college. But also she's going to get here and just be able to say, yeah, just have it, make sure this keeps going. Great. I mean, great. That frees me up with more time to do creative, awesome stuff.
Yeah. I would say a great starting point is, one is you don't have to start by an accident your finance tool, but one, I would say download Codex. Download Codex. There are tools inside of Gmail. They're all trying to consolidate everything, which I think will be great. But Codex has just generally got what we call a harness. It's got the AI model inside of an environment, so it's the same model, but it's able to do more. Enable Gmail.
You know what? We've done this before. Maybe we could do it again, because I know it mattered to me to actually see it happen. I don't think I have anything sensitive on this one. So Codex is just a sandbox on your computer. Lately, when I'm pitching it, I explain ChatGPT is a phone queue. You get a person, and just like a phone queue in a system, sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they understand the task, sometimes they're not helpful, sometimes they don't, they tell you they can't do a thing, sometimes they misunderstand, and then finally you're like, give me to someone else. But every time somebody picks up the phone, you got to start it all over again. Whereas in this case, with Codex, those are all like, we're going to, hey, let's get to a thing that works. And you can say, great, now write this down, lock it in, go do some research on this, check my email, pull out all of these, make this document. And then those people reach out and do blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell, like, yeah, for me, Gmail, I connected Gmail, and I just said, look for subscription. Well, one of the things you can do too is, by the way, is newsletters you don't want, just your inbox. Just literally tell it to go through my inbox and unsubscribe for everything. And then for, like, yeah, I would just say, look for reoccurring subscriptions, go look for that and try it.
Yeah. Well, so let's do this. Well, actually, no, I don't want to build a sandcastle.
I don't know if you want to, you don't want to,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Anyway,
you never. No. Yeah. I don't. I think that we can just sort of walk people through the steps. And the one is there's a couple connectors you can do. It's available both on Mac and Windows. You can do what's called Computer, which you go into a thing called Computer Use, and you can allow it to then control your computer, which literally takes over a cursor and go through your computer. And if it's on a Mac, you can still work in the foreground while it works in the background. Windows, it'll take over the foreground. That's fine. But you can also just enable the Gmail plugins and just say, search through my subscriptions, download your bank statements, download a bank statement, anything you have that records what you paid, and just upload those PDFs and say, make a list of all the things that I'm paying for.
So I was able to, last year when I went to DEF CON, and I noticed that there was not a deceptive role play environment available. So I said to the email list, I was like, hey, if you're an IT person, this is something I'm keying in on. If you want to hear more, just reply with whatever this phrase is, raise your hand. And then I didn't think about it for a year later. And then it came time to reach out to people, and I could go try to track down those emails and manually assemble a list. Instead, I was able to say literally what I just said to you in vague hand-waving terms, describe all this. Can you check my Gmail? And it came back saying, first of all, it was labeled this, and the exact phrase was this, and 173 people raised their hands, and would you like them exported as a comma-separated values? And I was like, yes, I would. And then I was able to resume contact with that specifically targeted group of people.
I'm excited because too, one of the things they're doing now is, one of the hard parts is you create something that's useful and you want to share it. So what they have coming, it's right now just in enterprise, but it'll be coming, I think, elsewhere to other paid subscriptions, is sites, which you can control access, because then you can say, hey, I have a content relation database I just created with this data, give it to your staff and say, here, just let them have access to it. It's on the web, but it's secure. That's exciting. it's the analogy. I think it's like if you had a group of developers, like, you know, what is a, and I think the better analogy than a billionaire, what does a billionaire tech CEO have? They have the ability to ask a bunch of engineers to go build a thing for them and get it done quickly and iterate. And that's what's there now. Somebody asks Codex, is it worth it? Dude, $20 a month, 1,000 bajillion% worth it.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
fundamentally like I would look, in general, I try not to get in the middle of anybody arguing about AI because no two people are having the same argument. I will say this much, a quick shorthand to find out whether or not we're even talking about the same thing is whether or not we're talking about Codex specifically, because there's everything else I've seen, and then there's Codex, where it is able to have a persistent, ongoing conversation with a specific narrative thought where it could do specific things and put images and data in folder and files, where it could go out on the web and find this, where it can go logged in as me. And I went to lunch. So the live stream that we did yesterday, well, look at this. I made a gesture and then it went nutty. I went out to lunch yesterday I did a live stream that is having some success, and I wanted to track what was happening. But in order to do it, you have to do a lot of clicking around in stuff. And so I said, hey, I'm logged in here. I just want you to go through and get all the data. You're going to have to take screenshots of everything and collate all of it. And so it did. And then when I came back 90 minutes later, now while I was out to lunch, I had to look at my phone and it said, hey, grant permission to do this. Grant permission to do that. Great. Then when I came home, it said, so here's why the video's blowing up. Here's what accounts for this unusually high click-through rate. Here's where your traffic comes from. Here's my advice. Do this, don't do that. And then it was amazing. And that was not a thing that could happen in any way besides with Codex.
I tried just building a thing right now. I got excited and I started building a tool because trying to enhance the audio for our podcast is a pain. And so I literally told Codex to go. There's a tool that Adobe has called Adobe Enhance, which lets you upload audio files and enhance it, right? But it's not an API. You got to manually upload it. So
An API would mean that a computer could directly talk to it. The only way to use it is you have to manually open the site, drag the thing over, and do in. That used to be a very good way to make sure only humans would use it.
And so I just told Codex, like I logged into Adobe. I'm like, here's the site. Just go in and drag the file and do it yourself. And it did it. So then I was like, cool. I want to build a comparison tool to basically just see, what works here. And let's see if I can share this. And it built me this tool that lets me compare. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. It didn't replace my window. Okay, I can't share my screen. Trust me, it built a tool that basically let me compare side by side the different ways we're doing it. I just said, while I was talking to Brian, maybe zone in on a little bit. And I said, hey, build an interface that lets me compare them side by side. And then while we were talking, it spat out a whole interface that lets me compare them side by side.
You know, enhancing the audio, it can actually manually, I've got a project that involves some graphic design elements, and it will physically open InDesign and manipulate stuff and render it and then look at it for aesthetic quality and then send me emails of like, this is the latest version, any notes? And it's crazy because I don't even need to log into Codex to give a response. I literally replied to the email that came from my own box. And then when it went in, it was like, oh, the user responded. Oh, he wants feedback he wants it more like this. And then it just keeps on making the changes. It was extraordinary.
Yeah. So I would say to kind of go back and scope, I would say that it is a rough tool and that it's been advancing so quickly that it's not as easy as just ChatGPT where you go in and just have a conversation. You're sometimes going to be writing code in folders, sometimes doing stuff like that. If you want, I would just say you don't have to do that part. You can go in. It is a little bit of friction, and it might be a couple hours of friction. It is so well worth it in terms of overall productivity. nobody has ever I've ever said go do this has said it was a waste of time. They've all come back with like this was transformative. I look at things completely different now. I feel like I'm much more capable. You've never had this. There's a term we use, in tech, like alpha, like this untapped potential. There is no greater alpha right now waiting for you than you figuring out, just spending a little bit of time, an afternoon, a Saturday, whatever, using these tools.
Yeah, if there's one wish I have for everyone, it's look, I'm not telling you what you have to do with your intern. I'm not telling you whether or not you're going to like your intern. I'm not you can never talk to them again. I'm just strongly encouraging you, introduce yourself. Have a conversation with your intern. Find out what you can make. I mean, or what are interested in, whether it's invitations for a birthday party, whether it's an update on whatever happened to, if it's a half-remembered email somewhere in the back of your Gmail bin. There is some task that is tedious that takes more than 5 minutes of your real time, and it is below the threshold of action in your life. Throw one of those and see what happens.
Yeah. I've gone into the Codex right now, and I created a project called CFO, like Chief Financial Officer.
Oh yeah.
And
This is one I wanted to get started in, a revenue, like come up with revenue ideas.
Yeah, you could do for you CRO, so like you or whatever. I mean, it doesn't. So like what CFO, you could say, hey, your CFO, whatever, just whatever role you want. Just say, hey, one is where can I cut my costs? Go look at my costs and tell me where I need to cut costs. Go look through my Gmail. Go look through this. Go look at all that. And if you're like Brian or me, and you're also selling stuff or in market with anything, you can also say, come up with ideas, but not expensive ideas, smart ideas. And maybe it is maybe trying to Google ad spend. Maybe it is something like that. But also think about other stuff. I'm writing this book right now on AI use in business. And I was explaining the whole thing of like how important it is in companies of a certain size to just run experiments all the time and share the results with your employees. It doesn't matter what you're doing, that if people are really invested in each week, we tried this, we did this, it feels dynamic. It feels like your change is happening. And I said, let me put an example. And I said, how would you treat a local hardware store like a Frontier AI lab? And it said, you could look for this. And it said, for example, you could try an experiment one week is a shelf that's all about one-trip kits. Because sometimes people come to the hardware store and they keep coming back. And if they want to fix a plumbing problem there, it could be a one-trip kit was everything you need to fix your plumbing problem in one kit that you could buy. I was like, this is kind of genius. This is a really good idea.
Well, and I don't know how much of this is a function of us just getting up there in wisdom years, but you begin to notice similar structures regardless of what the environment, what the slice of humanity is. And I've become very interested in what are some parallels in one domain that could show up in another. And so maybe, like one of the Pulse things that I have it doing is find comps to what I'm doing and find interesting observations, find blind spots of whether it's performance opportunities, revenue generators, new projects, and let's say 9 out of 10 are garbage. That 1 in 10, man, that 1 in 10 where it's like, I don't know, what lessons does, pick what can I learn from yellow journalism that can inform the YouTube era? Or you know what? Just what I said is enough of a prompt. Like, what are some metaphors I should use to find out more things?
I just got a list of check my Gmail for any reoccurring subscriptions. And, I've got a bunch from my Cinemark to all these other things that I'm paying for, like my X Premium account, what I'm paying Apple. I'm doing Apple Care One, Apple One Individual, iCloud plus whatever. Like I might be having some duplicate ones here.
Yeah, I found a bunch of duplicates. And get this, I had it look at all my content media subscriptions. And a lot of them, for example, it's a good thing I'm not paying for HBO Max because that was duplicated. That comes for free with my AT&T internet subscription.
Yeah.
There's so many things like that you don't even know.
I'm very excited about the ability of these tools because I think that very soon we're going to, in certain places, Some places it'll happen willingly, and some places people demand it. We're then going to turn them to city government expenses and county government and state government. And you hear this time and again, you'll hear the Pentagon doesn't know how much money the Pentagon spend because the Pentagon doesn't have the budget to figure out how much money the Pentagon spends.
Without naming names, a friend of mine put together he's in an industry where people have to submit a lot of design stuff that has to go through a lot of checks and scans and a lot of high touch human stuff, because eventually they get turned into circuit boards and at scale. And there's an unbelievable amount of processing and scanning that takes it to do it. And he started working on turning a doodad into a layer, something that could be company wide. And he had complicated feelings in the beginning of it, because he's like, oh my God, if this works, it's going to, air quotes, put everyone out of a job. But then, of course, everything evolves. And then they just rolled out last week the new system, and he got calls from all levels of the company. And of all of them, the one that moved him the most was a lady who said that, who it turns out she was about to retire because she was over it. But now it's so easy that she rescinded her retirement package. Of like, if this is what I'm doing, then I love this job. Like it, this is now interesting to me. And in fact, he thought that all of it was going to be he thought that it would be hard to get people to get on board with the new method, but immediately the result was everybody resented the fact that they had to use the old method for the government contracts.
Yeah, I think we're going to see, we know we're going to go into a turbulent period. Some jobs just go away. Other jobs will transform and other jobs will be created. And I think the best path for that, I think, is actually speed. Like people go, oh, we need to prepare. Nobody prepares. Nobody sits around and says, well, I've got 3 months till this AI thing happens. I'm going to go take night school classes and go. That's not the way that it works. You have to go, oh, shoot, I just saw this thing happening. I need a way now to be able to get better and improve. And also, it's just the myth of prepare is, to me, is I think one of the catastrophic, economically, whatever, it's failed over and over time. And I argue with people about this. Like, you move very quickly, you provide tools and access for people to adapt, but you don't say we're going to slow a thing down or stop to do that, because then people just say, well, why don't we just stop it forever or do that, and you arrest your economy. In that case, that's a great example too of like, you can say, oh, well, this is going to ruin these jobs. Maybe your job is efficiency. You work for a company, your job is to find the maximum profit of the company. Your maximum opportunity for you as a company is to maximize your profit, ideally by pleasing your customers. And that often means lower prices. And if lower prices means doing something more to even the same quality for a lower price, that's what you do. If it means you do it with fewer people, you do it with fewer people. Guess what? We live in a market. The job of the market is the market figures out how to take the best advantage of human labor, et cetera. And I think that the more we get on board with that, we might find out that you just created a new opportunity. We mentioned game engines before. We talk about game engines, like in our Weird Things podcast. We forget how much a game engine changed a lot of video game design, because it used to be you had to hire a bunch of people, or hire some people, rare people, who were very, very good at like assembly and programming stuff very, very efficiently at this level. The game engine comes along, and basically you can have a bunch of designers and a few game people go in and go build a game. Did the game industry decline? Were there fewer jobs in the game industry? Brian, you tell me.
I mean, again, that's one of those, the gas will expand to meet the vessel that it is allotted in. And there is
game industry.
Yeah.
The game industry became bigger than domestic box office, bigger than the movie
by
industry.
by a lot. And the level of in-depth world building, storytelling is next level. G. James B has a legit question, like, how secure is the AI sandbox? Can somebody do blah, 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 blah? All of these questions ultimately are, they have you as the hypothetical victim, and you're asking, can the bad guys do this? Can the bad guys do that? Much like I tell everyone every morning in office hours, take on the role of being the other guy. Like tinker just a little bit of it, and very quickly you realize what you should and should not be worried about. Right now, a lot of us just have a big black box. And I was on the other side of this just a month ago before I bought a Mac and started tinkering with Codex. It It is. There are so many questions that you have, and it's all one big black box. So just get a little bit on the other side of it and just find a small thing to start tinkering with. Very quickly, you will get a sense of what you should and, more importantly, should not be worried about.
Yeah, and these are, it's always ongoing. Be curious, be asking these things. I think sometimes I will hear these questions from other people that I think are in worthwhile, but they don't ask enough questions about other areas. They will, hey, I'm really worried about this thing. I'm like, cool. Have you listened to Brian talk about fishing? Are you aware of this? Where's your password? When you get the alert to change your password, do you change it, or do you just go, nah, I'll do it? And I think that these things are all worth doing, but if it helps people understand, or at least they just think I'm an extreme adrenaline junkie, like I use full access on ChatGPT and in Codex. I have it connected to all of my accounts, all of the things, everything. My children's future, could be jeopardized by this, but I feel comfortable enough doing this.
Yeah. But, and of course, that comfort only comes from familiarity. So whatever discomfort you're feeling, instead, just substitute the word lack of familiarity with it. And you can't immediately change your comfort level, but you can immediately change your familiarity with it by getting hands-on.
Yeah.
And again,
and do it.
All of this is less complicated in a hands-on way than one would think.
Yeah, do it. And you do it step by step. Like I would say that a first level of trust is, do I trust it to read my Gmail? And you can turn it off. You can say, I trust it to read my
I don't know if we lost Andrew.
Gmail, and then you say, you know what, I'm going to
Yeah, you were gone, but you're back.
I was saying that you could try it incrementally. Like first step is to say, okay, I'm going to let it read my Gmail. And if I don't feel comfortable tomorrow, I'll turn it off. And so I have it plugged in my Gmail all the time. So every day I get updates, tells me about meetings, everything else like this, but it's your choice. But now that it reads my Gmail, I can say, look for reoccurring billing, look for this. Now ChatGPT has the ability to send email through your Gmail account if you're in the web app, which is cool. Now I look at a lot of I hate the Gmail app and I get anxiety to it and I let things pile up and it affects me professionally and personally. Now that I can just go inside of ChatGPT and say, write the response here and send and do it, my life feels a lot easier. Yep. Let's see. I had to turn off my Gmail.
Audio listeners,
even
I
really
just
work
flashed
for
the
me now.
592,261 important and unread Gmails on there.
Yeah.
And by the way,
so
when you turn on the ability to let it check your Gmail, that doesn't mean it's, with motivation running around in your Gmail. It's the equivalent of opening the door and then it just sits there until you say, go find the whatever. Then it'll do something. Or you're like, every morning, go find the whatever. Or when this happens, do whatever.
Yeah. Again, I think step by step, build trust until you feel more comfortable doing it. I can't imagine about these tools. Like I said, for me, I've had a lot of moments, but getting it to save me the $270 a month on a necessary payment for a web host was just, I pay $200 a month for the Pro. So like I have like this like crazy insane limits, because to me it's like, yeah, it's a no brainer. And then right there, it's made me, I'm making $70 more a month because I use this thing.
Yeah.
Because my wife likes to use Girl Logic, like it pays you to use it. Like, well, it doesn't really pay for itself. It's not really
Let's not
true.
go crazy. But I will say that as a 1 month experiment, if you have the discipline to, if you're the kind of person who can subscribe to a thing and unsubscribe to it 2 weeks later, it is hard for me to believe that you can't find $200 of stupid to clear up in 1 month.
Yeah.
With the
100%.
financials. You got any picks?
All right. Picks. Yeah, there's a kid on young man. I think his name's Riley Brown on YouTube, who's done some quick start tutorials on Codex.
Okay.
I think he went from a very, let's say, antagonistic, I would say, some content about OpenAI and not quite getting it, and then he sort of saw that that I know these are people that just want to build cool tools for everybody else and look at AI as an enabler and capable, not as a god, not as a replacement, but as a thing on which we stand, whose shoulders we stand upon and do great things. And then I watched him really kind of, once Codex came out, he really embraced it. And I think he's got some really good quick starts on Codex.
Yeah. A doodad is becoming a layer. There's no value judgment in it. Nobody needs to feel threatened. I just started a book that's marketing and human behavior adjacent called Just Evil Enough. And it's got some alchemy vibes. I'll report on how it goes, but I'm very excited about it. Alistair Kroll and Emily Ross, Just Evil Enough.
I just found a bunch of stuff I'm paying for that I shouldn't be paying for WordPress.com and other stuff like this.
That's great. Well, okay. So yeah, this is the phrase that I think of every time. Like if I have minutes to spare, it's like, do you want to play Find the Stupid? Because we all know that there's some amount of stupid that we just don't have time for. And just go on a hunt. And the stupid could be your mortgage rate. It can be the services, the insurance that you're overpaying for. Like that's the fun part is the stupid. It rains all around you. Opportunity cost, education cost. Find the stupid. It's a great game.
And I would do if you can take the effort to download all of your billing statements for stuff that might not be directly in your Gmail. Do it for a year because that's where you'll find the reoccurring billing, like Brian's $500 a year. $500 is a lot. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And then you get that. I've had that. I had a reoccurring billing thing came up for something I didn't use, and it pissed me off. And then I canceled my card because I was trying to shut off the reoccurring billing, and it was just downstream effects just screwed up everything because all the other things, all the things that were attached to it that didn't figure out how to ignore 3 times your card. I had this wild idea. When you change your credit card, nothing should be able to charge you again.
Yeah, unfortunately, legally, your commitment per contract with the vendor is independent of your card. I mean, I agree. Like we want to use.
What I'm saying is, they should not be able to go to my card company and bill me. They should send me a notice and say, "Listen, you owe us this money."
I agree.
That's
But now we're just raging at the machine, which we could do. Yeah. All right, we'll see you guys
later.
Got it.
Yeah. Just literally $500 in stupid WordPress hosting. We should think about a clever URL that's just prompts and stuff and things about like how to handle this crazy reoccurring billing.
Yeah, well, and it's so funny. Like the new hyperlink is just knowing what's possible. Like that's one of my favorite things is sharing clever uses and just keeping your brain loose about like, oh, you could do that.
Yeah. Well, I think, but also just helping people too. Like I think that sometimes it's just be like, I fucking hate Liquid Web. I hate Liquid Web. I hate Liquid Web with a passion.
What is Liquid Web?
They were our host for weird things that creep the price up to $270 a month.
Got it. And we are still live on the air. I'll go. We can say goodbye to everyone. Or
no, you can. Everybody needs to hear this.
Okay, good.
Everybody needs to hear this. Okay, I've tweeted about this. This is not private knowledge. I am livid at how it just creeped up there. So
that's funny.